Becoming a nurse was my childhood dream. As I reached retirement age, I realized that over 40 years had passed since I first started. I was then hired as a part-time nurse at a new hospital where even young nurses and doctors relied on me. But not everyone appreciated my experience. "Hey, you old hag," acting all high and mighty towards the doctors. "Useless old hag strutting around the hospital like you own the place. You're just a nuisance. Retire ASAP." Young lead Dr. Kevin cornered me with such harsh words. My name is Mary. As a child, I was often sick, going in and out of hospitals. The kindness of the nurses who took care of me stayed with me, and I decided to become a nurse myself someday. When my health improved, I pursued a nursing degree at university and finally achieved my dream of becoming a nurse. Lost in my work, over 40 years had passed. Nursing is tough, with long hours and responsibility for patients' lives, so naturally there were many hardships. But seeing the smiles of patients leaving the hospital made me determined to keep going, no matter how tough it got. Supported by my husband and children, I made it until retirement age. However, I wanted to continue working, so I applied for a part-time position as a temporary nurse. My children were already independent, and my husband encouraged me to pursue what I loved. So I decided to take his words to heart. Fortunately, the hospital where I was newly hired as a part-time nurse was the best place where I could utilize my knowledge and experience. Young nurses and doctors relied on me, and I found myself playing the role of a mentor within the group before I knew it. However, there was one young light doctor, Kevin, who seemed to dislike me for some reason. Despite greetings, he ignored me and often resorted to childish harassment. "Good morning, Dr. Kevin," I said, but he just huffed and walked away. Feeling down about Kevin's attitude at the nurse station, a colleague comforted me. Kevin ignored me again. "Did I do something wrong?" I asked. "It's okay, just leave it. That guy might have good skills. But being unable to communicate with others makes him the worst kind of doctor," she replied. One day, out of the blue, Kevin came up to me and demanded that I quit my job. That day, Kevin seemed unusually moody. Had he made a mistake? Had a patient said something he didn't like? As I watched him childishly hit hospital equipment, I lightly reprimanded him. "Dr. Kevin, please control your temper. It's pitiful to take it out on equipment." Kevin glared at me and muttered under his breath, "What?" Some old hag acting all high and mighty towards the doctors. I didn't want to escalate the situation, so I pretended not to hear Kevin. He raised his voice and continued to berate me. "Hey, can't you hear me, old hag? Maybe your ears are too old. You're just a nuisance. Retire quickly." I was astonished. It was the first time someone had spoken to me like this face to face. He must be really unhappy about something. Before my anger could rise, I found myself wide-eyed and open-mouthed in surprise. Kevin continued to escalate his tone. "Useless old hag, strutting around the hospital like you own the place. You're just a nuisance. Retire ASAP." With that, Kevin kicked over a nearby trash can, scattering its contents on the floor. I could have retaliated against such childish complaints in many ways, but men like Kevin, once angered, could be dangerous. Besides, even if I left this hospital, there would be plenty of patients waiting for me elsewhere. Kevin was still glaring at me with bloodshot eyes. "Okay," I said. With that, I started writing my resignation letter on a piece of stationery from the drawer. "That's right, old hag, about time you understood," Kevin sneered, satisfied as he watched me hastily write my resignation. He turned and left. I put the resignation letter in an envelope and took it to the director's office. Since the director was not there, I left it on his desk. Tomorrow was my day off, so on my next working day, I would take my belongings from the locker. I needed to greet the patients I was in charge of and tie up loose ends at the hospital. I had no regrets because I always gave my all to my work. When we work for a long time, there are inevitably people like Kevin whom we just can't get along with. It's better to leave a place where such people are present as soon as possible. I thought I could work at any new place if I wanted to. I still had confidence in my skills and experience, so I knew I'd be fine. Feeling strangely refreshed, I left the hospital at night. The next morning, while watching TV with my husband in the living room, I received a call. Looking at the display of my smartphone, it was the director. Thinking something might have happened to a patient, I hurriedly answered the phone. "Director, is everything okay?" The director was in a panic, and as soon as I answered the phone, He burst into tears. "Director, I won't understand if you cry. Please calm down," I urged him. The director finally started to explain. "Mary, the hospital is in big trouble right now. Please don't quit." "What's going on?" I asked. The director's story went like this. One of the other night shift nurses must have noticed the resignation letter I placed on the director's desk. Overnight, rumors spread among the nurses that I was resigning. The nurses began to say one by one, "If Mary leaves, we'll leave too." Except for emergency patient care, the nurses went on strike. Outpatient care was in complete chaos, and panicked patients seemed on the verge of rioting outside the hospital. This was the first time such a thing had happened since the hospital opened, and the director himself was at his limit, unable to respond. "We're in big trouble if we can't get you back, Mary," the director cried. "What's the cause? Is it the treatment? The environment? Anything, please tell me." I started feeling sorry for the director. I was worried about the patients and wanted to rush to the hospital right away, but I held myself back and explained what Kevin had said to me last night to the director. The director was surprised, but he must have somehow sensed Kevin's dislike towards me. He quickly agreed. "I'm sorry for what happened. I'll talk to Dr. Kevin severely about this. Can you please come back?" "No, I want Dr. Kevin to apologize to me directly. If he does that, I'll reconsider." "Understood. It's really tough, Mary. Please come help us right away." After the director begged me through tears, I decided to go to the hospital. But I had one condition. Just give me a chance to talk to Dr. Kevin. Of course you can use the director's office for anything you need. After hanging up with the director, I hurried to the hospital. When I arrived, I was astonished. There was a huge crowd in the nurse station that I had never seen before. Veteran nurses were loudly shouting something in the center of it all. At the center was Kevin, trembling alone. The director had probably explained the situation between me and Kevin to the nurses beforehand. The nurses, unable to bear it any longer, seemed to have called Kevin to the nurse station. "Dr. Kevin, go apologize right away and convince Mary." "That's right. I can't believe Mary has to quit because of you." "Quit? You should quit." They all chorused. Kevin, young and inexperienced, had probably never been cornered like this by angry women before. He had been silent with a tense face all this time. Feeling sorry for Kevin, I decided to intervene and help him. "I'm sorry, everyone, for causing you trouble," I said as I entered the group of nurses and addressed Kevin, who was frozen like a scolded child. "Come on, Dr. Kevin, let's go." "Where to?" he asked, confused. "To the director's office." Following the director's instructions, I dragged Kevin to the director's office. The director was waiting for us, still visibly upset. I instructed Kevin to explain the situation properly from his own mouth. Though I thought it might take some time, Kevin, scared by the nurse's scolding, unexpectedly meekly and honestly explained what had happened last night in a low voice. He seemed to have given up. Having heard the whole story, the director was once again exasperated. "What are you, a child?" he asked incredulously. The director had high expectations for Kevin from the beginning. Kevin was the youngest and most skilled elite doctor. However, because of this, the director had turned a blind eye to his misconduct and attitude, spoiling him too much. "So I think half of it is my fault. I'm really sorry, Mary," said the director as he apologized to me. Seeing this, Kevin hastily followed suit and apologized to me in a barely audible voice. "Sorry," he mumbled. I decided to tease him a little. "What?" "I couldn't hear you, Kevin, because I'm old," I said. "Sorry," he repeated, slightly louder this time. Although Kevin had a pride as high as Mount Everest, it was rare, or rather it was the first time, for him to bow his head to someone. He had dead fish eyes and didn't seem to be putting his heart into it at all. But I decided to accept his apology for now. "Dr. Kevin, I'll forgive you this time. However, I'll work on straightening out your twisted character and spirit from now on, so be prepared," I warned him. The director, overhearing my words, quickly chimed in. "So, Mary, will you stay at this hospital from now on?" "Yes," I replied. "If that's the case, I'll tell everyone at the nurse station to disperse and return to their posts." "Thank you, Mary. Dr. Kevin, be sure to thank her too," the director instructed. Thus, Kevin was forced by the director to bow his head again, and so I decided to stay at this hospital. Half a year passed in the blink of an eye. Perhaps my persistent guidance had paid off, as Kevin's attitude gradually softened. He seemed to have learned from me how to interact with and care for patients in his own way. Now he has become a well-respected doctor with a good reputation among patients and is accepted by the nurses, although sometimes teased about that incident. However, he still seemed a little uncomfortable around me and never won against me. Even though I tried to speak to him kindly, he always seemed nervous. "Dr. Kevin," I called. "Hey, yes, what is it?" he replied, startled. "I brought some snacks, so let's make some coffee and eat together." "Come on, sit here with us," I invited. "Oh, okay," he agreed hesitantly. Back when Kevin just disliked me, I never imagined a day when we would sit together with him and the nurses, eating snacks. Working for a long time, such things happen, and that's why this job is interesting after all. Mary, 65 years old, I'll continue to work as an active nurse. The nurses were delighted at my words. However, Kevin alone was looking up at the ceiling. How was today's story? Please also consider subscribing to the channel. Well then, let's meet again in the next video.